I'm about to say something that might doom my political ambitions. Despite the fact that nearly all of you have food within reach, please hear me out before throwing it at me. I like Go Set a Watchman better than To Kill a Mockingbird. Almost nobody agrees with me on this. Returning to a fictional world we once loved can be a straining experience if it doesn't meet our expectations. But Go Set a Watchman is different. It's different not because the critiques against the text are invalid, but because it serves a different purpose. Where Harper Lee's first novel tells the story of a young girl learning a hard lesson about the world, her second tells the much more profound story of a grown woman learning the hardest of lessons about a man she idolized. The reveal of Atticus Finch's racist beliefs, so prominently featured in Go Set a Watchman, ensured that the audience shared the experience of Jean Louise Finch. A friend of mine from high school was livid at the destruction of her fictional hero. Others were concerned that an esteemed member of the canon of American heroes might no longer meet the most basic of qualifications. On the other hand, many of us understand all too well the experience of losing faith in our heroes. As a straight white man interested in politics, I've had this experience myself. Innumerable so-called heroes in American history looked like me, but very few acted in a way that I would condone. We may applaud the spirit of freedom and individual rights based on common humanity that led Thomas Jefferson to write the Declaration of Independence, but paragraphs extolling the universal rights and liberties of the human race ring hollow when written by a slaveholder. George Washington deserves the same critique. More recently, the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, its associated racism and gross human rights violations all rule out Franklin Delano Roosevelt as a hero. Even the heroism of perhaps our greatest political leader, Abraham Lincoln, is betrayed by his reluctance to end slavery for fear it would prevent victory in the Civil War. Each of these men fought for this country in their own time. But each of them fought for a conception of America that is incompatible with the one we must fight for today. And their actions reveal a very limited idea of what and who this country is for. The older I get and the more I learn about American politics, the more I find that we have no heroes but those we make for ourselves and those we make ourselves into. Particularly since the last election, it is more important than ever that we do just that. At our particular moment in history, the world demands our attention and our action. Immediately after the election, I wondered whether I still wanted to go into politics. Donald Trump's campaign demeaned women, questioned the humanity of Muslims, and generally attempted to make the United States a less inclusive place. He stands for the worst failings in our country's past. He is the champion of the other side in the battles I had planned to dedicate my life to fighting. Did his win mean those battles had already been lost? Or had the stakes of that fight been raised beyond anything I had imagined? The conclusion I came to was that my original life plan, working in human rights law and eventually entering politics, was now more important than ever. The more this inclusive vision of our country is threatened, the more it must be defended. America was conceived as a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. But we have struggled for centuries and continue to struggle today to ensure that every person is given their rightful place as part of the people. In reality, America has long been a place of, by, and for people like me. And that's true. The United States of America is a country for heterosexual, educated, white Christian men. But it's also a country for everybody else A country where the most disadvantaged person deserves the same rights I enjoy and the same privileges that I was born into. I now make a radical proposition. All people are people. Rather than resolve the centuries-old contradiction by compromising our ideals, we are called now more than ever to implement them properly. This is not a task that the heroes of our past were equal to. If it were, they would not have failed to accomplish it. Whether this is a consequence of the times they lived through or of their own flaws is irrelevant to our task in our time. In order for all people to be appropriately recognized as people, each of us must form ourselves into the kind of person we would feel comfortable calling a hero. Like Jean Louise Finch, we must learn the right lessons from the people least qualified to teach them. In many ways, Go Set a Watchman is the story of America. A long, slow, painful process of applying the ideals we learned from people who did not fully embrace them. Of giving to all people the rights that were once considered inalienable only for a few. It is a story of holding ourselves to standards set by men who fell woefully short of them, and struggling to reconcile the contradiction that arises. A story of sacrificing our idols and dismissing our heroes, following only their ideals and not their actions. It is a story of becoming heroes ourselves in our own time, as we call on our country to fulfill its promise and recognize the humanity inherent in all people, not just some. In short, we must remake America in its own image. Thank you.